Okay, right, let's get on with it then. Time is money. Just check everything sounds alright, check's alright, let's turn off that. I'm not getting a cup of tea anymore, I have my tea. Right, T420 time, fresh out the box. We've not done too much with it yet. All I've done is, you can probably see here, I've got the chassis sitting on a piece of glass next to me. So normally when the cars come, I mean, they've always been carbon before, but before I start building the car, I like to get the thing out, you know, preferably the night before. And if you've got a nice solid piece of glass like this, which is 10mm or something solid, like your setup board, it's good just to let the chassis just rest on that first, so it's nice and flat, no issues or anything there. So that's been sitting there since yesterday, just resting out, getting ready for tonight, and then we're just going to crack on and get on with the actual build and see how we go. We'll do the full disclosure bit as well as I go along. I do have some parts that are going to go on the car. Now, there always be things about some parts that are good to have, the want-nots, have-nots, and there's just some that are they're just blingy, let's be honest. And some of these are on here, and the reason they're all kind of loose in there is because they've been taken from car to car to car. So they're not like we've gone out and bought all brand new parts for a brand new car, because you just don't need to. Some of these parts will go on forever. I mean, these body posts have probably been on every car since about 16, and the wheel nuts have probably been on for a season, maybe two as well. Same for the screws I like to use in the bottom of the countersinks. The outdrives, these are new off one of the other cars as well that have gone, so they're going to go on. They've only had a little bit of usage, so we're going to stick with them. And then probably new out the packet stuff is really just going to be the blades. And I like to use these. The kit ones are absolutely fine, and if you've got to obviously put them in the kit, put them straight on the car and just crack on with it immediately. It won't cause you any harm or pain. I just like to use the orange ones because they are just a little bit more durable, and in modified racing I think that's quite important. We run them in stock as well, and they last a very, very long time in stock. In modified, not quite as long, but then not everything lasts quite as long in stock. That'll be the same for like drive belts, things like that. And then I've got a new set of titanium screws that are going to go on the top deck of the car, so that's all going to be the upper mounts, the upper bulkheads, the top deck, and the shock posts. So they'll be coming along as we go. You've got to have all the obligatory bits. I've got the tools out. I think I've got everything I need. It's really important if you've ordered a Chinese the night before as well, because then you've got a lid left over, which is really useful to pour all the bits in, and then you can kind of separate them out into your tray. So hopefully we've got everything here, and we're going to crack on with it now. So I've got the manual here. I won't stick that under the camera. I'll just put that off, slightly off next to me as we go through and build each page. As I said, some bits I won't bother doing straight away, like the differential, because I've already got built diffs that I'm going to use, so I don't need to build up another one right now. So we're just going to part one. So here's the box. So I haven't opened anything from the box yet. What I'd normally recommend doing though as well is taking the top deck out and leaving that to rest. And if you leave the top deck to rest on them overnight as well, but these are slightly different now, so I don't think that's going to cause too many concerns, so I'm not going to worry about that one just yet. We are looking for, well, that's bag one, which I know is the gear diff, so let's have a little rummage around all our bags. We've got bag 5, bag 2's there, so there's bag 1, there's my differential, so I'm going to set that one aside and come back to that later on, probably tomorrow or something. There's number 3, there's another bag 6, that's all the shocks, that's quite late gameplay stuff. We probably won't be touching that tonight. We'll just try and do all the chassis stuff, and then servo saver, body post and everything in number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's 4? Is that 4? It's number 4, all the top deck and the steering arms and the bell crank. You'll probably notice now I've got alloy ones. Alloy ones are obviously fantastic to use. I don't use them at the moment indoors. And the only reason I don't use them is because using the plastic ones just settles the steering down on the car. My son drives the car, so he finds the alloy ones to make the steering a little bit too sensitive around neutral. I mean, as soon as we go outdoors we whack them on because you want all the extra locking, but indoors we run the plastic kit ones for now. So let's move those bags aside. We'll move number 5 aside. I'll get to number 2. These screws, if you watched the Alex video before, we're going to cover this circlip as well. And these are in here, these are for the lay shaft. And I'm building this for the first time as well, so everything's going to be new as it comes along. You do need a set of these circlip pliers to be able to do this job. But I'm going to follow that with the instructions. I'll show that on the other camera there as well. If you've got any questions or anything that I could try and answer as we go along, do shove them into chat and then we'll see how we get along. There's 2 cameras running, so hopefully you can see the top, you can see the side down view. If you want to see closer up with the side views, we can switch to that later on as we go along. But for the meantime, let's turn over and check. 2, central transmission. So everything's kind of what you expect it's going to be. We're going to build the spool. Is that in that bag? Is that in bag 1? I don't think it is it? No, it's not. Where's the spool hiding? Where is the spool hiding? It's not in that bag, is it? Have they moved it to a different bag? Well, let's cut the thing open and ask. It's actually 2. So we've got all our hardware, spurs, blah blah blah, cams. Right, okay, so it's going to be pretty routine stuff. And one of the first things out the bag is, because it's assuming we've already built the diff and the solid axle there, which are going to go in with the bearings into the bulkheads. So let's get bag 2 open first. So as one's just suggested we do, here's my nice Chinese container. I'm going to crank open this bag. It definitely says 2 on it. Take the drive belts out. All the screws and things like that. So some of them we'll use because I think I'm missing 0.5s or the small ones here for the spur, and the shims are in there. So we'll pour the screws straight into the tray. But all the plastic and metal work can go straight onto that. And this one was packed by Speciakova. Right, that's that one out. Oh, never mind. That one on the floor. So let's get into these screws as well. We'll pour those into the parts tray just next to me as well. Just have a little shuffle there just to make sure that nothing's caught in between anything. No, we're good. Nice. So we've got towers, we've got the plastic cams, but we're not going to use those. I'm going to replace those with these ones here. These are the alloy ones. Questionable what more performance they give. I mean, they do allow the bearing to be a little bit freer. It doesn't seem to be squeezed quite as much on the outside as it does inside the plastic ones. When you put the bearing in, the whole thing tends to, only the middle part tends to spin, but they seem to be a lot freer when they go in and out of the alloy ones. Plus they're orange, so they just, oranges makes it, if it looks fast, it's fast, isn't it, as they say. Right, just got to find my spool. Ah, there she is. She's in that bag there. She's in bag 1.1. Right, so we've all built a spool before. Let's plunk this one in front of us here. Crack it open. Pour her out. There's not a lot to lose here. So we've got the 2 screws there. Then we've got the plastic out drives, which we're not going to be using. You can use them in, I mean, there's no reason not to use them, but in the high power classes they tend to wear a lot quicker if you do that. So those ones we're going to set aside, and then going to bring in the alloy ones here. Going to find my 2mm driver there. This just goes on the side. Now the next step, it does actually say you should put the bearings on before. I mean, they do slide over the out drives, but I like to put them on before as well. Let's just check that's all right. Yeah, that's looking free. Right, let's find the bearings. What bag's it hidden the bearings in? Alla bearings. Lots of different sizes. Tiny ones are for the roll bar, then the slightly larger ones are for the steering rack, and then everything else is for the hubs and the differentials. Now I'm just going to pour the whole lot into my tray here. So I know where they are. They have already been pre-oiled, however, we do like to add that ourselves. Oof. Right, so let's check these are all okay. Sounds lovely. Next. Yep. Sounds lovely. Just a little bit of the oil. That should do. Like that over there for later. Put that one on there. And that one on there. We're just going to slide out drive on that side and on that side as well. Tighten that one. Is that all the way on? So the bearing's seated. Spinning nice and freely. Nice. Right, so there's the 2mm driver. There's the 2mm driver. Let's get that in there. Tighten her up, but don't over tighten it. So when you get down to where it needs to be, you just feel it there. There you go, and that's it. Let me go and drop the other one in the other side. Couldn't have done that if I tried. Let's do it like that instead, then, shall we? Tighten that one down as well. There we go. Nice. Right, stand that there. Just going to grab the 5K to begin with. So here's one we made earlier, as to speak. So the other one I will build up to use at some point, but this was one that was only built at the weekend, so that's ready to go straight in the car now. So again, we're going to do the same job with our bearings. Put that right in the way, and I get out. There we go. Check these on the old thingy as well, make sure they're all right. Yeah, nice and free. There's no reason they shouldn't be, they are pre-oiled anyway, but it's always good to be sure. And it does say in the manual that you should oil them anyway. And if it says you should do it, you should do it. Right, so that one can go on there. Then that one can go on there. Just set them aside for a second, and then we can work on the next part. Hang on a minute. Yes, young man, can I help you? The driver's come along to see how it's going. Can I help you? Huh? No, it's alright, you do it. I'm building your car. Yeah. Carry on, mate, carry on. Alright, pal. Right, let's get on with the chassis. Just move the drive belts aside for a second. They can just sit on the stand. We're not going to need them just yet. Do we need upper hardware? No, I don't need any of that yet. Right, chassis plate. It's got a nice edge on it. I've taken the edge off this time as well, so it doesn't square off at the edge. It's got a nice little, can you see that? Better on the camera there, on that camera. As opposed to that one. They've taken the edge off. It's got a nice chamfered edge on it now, and I like that. That looks very, very nice. So first up, let's get the bulkheads on the car. There is a new tool. I do have the old bulkhead tool, and if you look on the channel, there's a video on how to actually do the bulkheads on the car as well. Now that's probably what we should be doing here really as well, to be honest, because it does make life a lot easier. But I need to check if the pins will actually go through these this time. Last time I tried it, they didn't. Normally you use the hinge pins, and you can put them through the bulkhead there and there just to help square it up on the chassis. But you notice on the change of the bulkheads that to make it fit, there's an edge on there. Does that come through clearly? Can you see that like that? What's the best way to show that? Maybe against that camera. See, it's bossed, it's cut in there, and then inside as well there's a groove that's machined inside the alloy as well. That's where the these are going to sit. So when they slide in there now, they are now flush with the bulkhead. You can see that there. That's a nice piece of engineering, I like that. Right, let's start putting this together loosely. Paying attention, of course, to what way round they actually go. So normally I would mark these, but because this is the first build of the car, I think it'll be stripped down again after its next run anyway. So that one there is going to go on the rear here. I'm not tightening these right up, I'm just loosely putting them in play for the minute. And then we're going to work on getting the whole frame nice and square, and then we'll tighten them all up. Which is a little bit different to what the manual says to do. I'm going to do this the way I've done it previously, because I know that works. Right, here we go. That's another one. They change, they have, interesting. So what I've just noticed is all of the lower screws are not what they were before. Look, here and here, here and here. These screws going in underneath are all 903/305, which is going to be an M3 by 5mm. Yeah, they are, they're all by 5 instead of the old ones, which were all 6. So as you can see, these ones are protruding through the bulkhead a little bit more. So it looks like we're probably going to have to just we'll use the kit ones for this build, and then we'll change these at a later date. I mean, these ones might actually go in the chassis better. The only reason we changed the other ones is because we was finding that when you run a block across there, is sometimes they were sitting slightly proud of the chassis. But that was more on the carbon than the aluminium, to be fair. They seem to have deeper mills into them, so we will stick with what it says on the manual for now. Unfortunately, there isn't a skip forward option here, so we can just leave this on and then move on. We're going to have to go through this screw by screw. The bulkheads are just on loosely at the moment. I'm not tying anything up just yet. Haven't taken out the other screw, that's why. Can't put a screw through a screw. That don't work, does it? There we go, nice and loose, nice and loose. Right, 1, 2, 3. If there's one more in there, there is. That's good, that means I could counted and packed it all properly. Lovely job. Outside, inside. The black alloy does look really good though. I like that. That is certainly an improvement. I mean, there's still some orange in there. There are orange parts to come. So you're still going to know it's an X-Ray. I think the last one, who was that did that? It was Hot Bodies, I think. They had a car that was a little bit orangey and black at the same time. Right, wibble wobble, wibble wobble. Let me just find out if these pins from the old bulkhead tool here. No. This is the one for the 19 car, because the new one has got it's slightly narrower because the bulkheads are narrower, so that ain't going to fit in there at all. So you can either machine it or keep it, or they'll think there's a new one that's coming up. But I would like to be able to put the pins through. No, I wonder if they machine the holes a little bit smaller. The time machine would be a little bit too tight to try and force that, so we're not going to force it. So we could go as per the manual. What I would normally do is, like on the bulkhead video we did, we would put these bulkheads on the car, then put the upper clamps on the car, and then put the top deck on the car and the shock towers, and then square the frame up, and then we take them off, and then we know the bulkheads are perfectly square. So let's grab this out of here. This part is kind of like, because you've got to do it in two stages. You know, you're taking this, putting this on the car, and then you've got to take the whole lot off the car again. But it does make sure that the bulkheads are absolutely square. So you can see if it's still nice and loose. So let's take our upper bulkheads that don't have the pins in them anymore. Grab those, and I'm just going to throw these together very, very quickly. Where's my other screws gone? There they are. Let's cut these ones open. These are titanium screws, just to take a bit of weight, again, off the top of the car. Bring that all down to the bottom of the car. These ones are from Moody Falls. Right. Do you know, I was actually quite liking the retaining pins on the bulkheads. I understand why they took them off, because it's the same reason like on the wet car, that you take one of these screws out just to give it a little bit more flex around the shock towers. But you can see why having basically 3 mount points is going to kind of inhibit. I won't be tightening this right up here either. These are going on reasonably loose. And I'll tighten the whole thing together all at the same time then. Then you see, kind of like that squares off that squares off that, and then that squares, then the top deck squares the front to the rear of the car. There we go. So still a little bit of give in there, see, a little bit of wobble. That's what we want. That's the front one. Do the rear one quickly. I say quickly, nothing's really quick when you're building a car. Should drink some tea though. Let's get that on the back. Here we go. Again, just slightly touch tight. Nothing has been tightened down at all yet. Not until the bulkheads are done. There we go. So let's pull them in, and there's still a little bit of give on there as well. So you can see these things are still wobbling around quite freely on the car. Can you see that on the screen? There you go. Cheat a bit, do this on the board. 2 hands is always better than 1. I should actually check on here that the upper screws still, yeah, they're the same size. They're still 6mm. Yeah, they are 6mm. Because they're titanium, you kind of have to drop them in as well, because I can't use the driver to stick them to. But with the lower screw in there, they don't want to go in too easily actually, so we're actually going to have to take out the bottom screw. So I wonder if they made the holes a little bit shorter. I think there's enough in there to unscrew it. So if I put that one in there like that, and then put the top one in above it. Yeah, so there's enough to unscrew it to take it off the top there, but not quite enough in there for the screw to fall out, which isn't a bad thing. Of course, chasing around the floor is not a good thing though. Right, now we'll just put that one back in there. Yeah, as I said, everything's kind of like touch tight at the moment. You see, I'm just tightening it down with my fingers. I'm not really applying any great force or anything. But we can see straight away there, as soon as that goes on the car, that the two bulkheads have now been pulled into line with each other, with a little bit of movement in there that's coming from here at the top, because we haven't tightened those down yet. Will this one slide on the rear though? No, it won't. I'll take the rear ones out again as well and do the same thing. I think the screws look quite nice actually on the against the black. Take that bottom one out. This is the first time I've built the new car, so everything is a learning experience again. After working on the previous models for a good few years, you can kind of take them apart and put them back together in your sleep practically. So I mean, you could get away with this before, I'm sure. Yeah, I must have done it hundreds of times. Exactly the same thing. It's dropping the old screws straight through the upper bulkhead clamps like this. Right, we're a little bit loose there, a little bit loose there. Let's grab a little bit of tea. Right, it's still hot. Nice. Right, so the top deck's what's going to centre all this up. So at the moment, I mean, if you point that there like that, you can see as I put that there, if I line that there, the top deck's sitting way over there. And then, now this was somebody else's tip from quite a while ago I saw on YouTube. So I'm going to put the four in the front. We're not tightening these down, they are very, very loose at the moment, just so we can kind of bring the thing into place. And then we're going to start tightening down the upper clamps to make sure the bulkheads are square. And then we'll do the bulkheads up, touch tight, go around, just double check everything's in the correct place, and then work across the car. Well, I like to work across the car diagonally, just to make sure everything's nice and tight and in the correct place. Now again, another tip I was told, and we can do that with these ones, is if you use the countersink screws to do the back of the top deck, because they're countersunk, they kind of pull the, you know, they're going to guarantee they're going to pull that in, pull that central to the top deck because of the cup underneath it. And what you can also do is you can also use the reamer just to take out the holes, just take the burrs off the holes a little bit. And you sometimes need to do that if you look at the bottom of these screws, this is one of the reasons I like these ones, is that where they cut down there, they kind of splay out a little bit at the bottom for the buttons, so they're not the same shape all the way down, which you sometimes find with these ones. So these will go straight through there without touching and putting pressure on the hole at the top of the deck. So I've got two in the front there and two in the rear, so these are literally just centering, nothing more than that. Will it let me do the back one with the button head in there? Now that's interesting. And the reason it won't is because there's three holes on the rear of the top deck. I think one of those is going to be for ARS, so that might be a reader head moment. So we're just going to move it back one hole, then that'll definitely give us room. And then all I want to do is, after I tighten this up, is make sure that the top deck moves freely up and down under its own weight. And then we'll know we've got a straight car with straight bulkheads, which is always a good start. Right, so we're just going to go around here, and I'm going to start down this end and just do these. I'm not tightening them right down, I'm just turning them now and just applying a small amount of pressure. Right, so that's now squared that off. Do the same at the rear. Turn that one, that one, that one, and that one. So We know that's now square. Now because they are countersinks underneath, they should automatically pull these to be true as well. Again, I'm just doing it, see, I'm using my fingers, I'm not holding the top of the driver up here, because I don't want to apply tension, I just want to do it there, and then, you know, naturally it will just slip somewhat as we get there. That's because I know I've got the right tension, I'm not squeezing on that, and my fingers just slip around the shaft. I'll flip the car back over now. Right, so these are going to be already roughly in the correct place, and the top deck should be able to just drop. Let's check our tension now. I think we're tightening down a little bit too much. Was it the rear ones we did? Yeah, it was the rear ones we did. And this one here. It's already, you see the top deck is falling under its own weight, so there's no twisting going on at the bulkheads. So now we're just going to do the top ones up again in the same method, like that. See, that one's loose there, that one there. Spin the car around, there, 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 and there. Now this is a nice new board, so I know it's flat, but we also have the glass, which we know is extremely flat. So let's just pop her on there, check everything. Still no tension really on the car, but the top deck should now, yep, she is falling under her own weight. Lovely. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten down these rear screws. Not tighten them right down, they're just going to go down to touch tight again. That will keep the deck centered for me. And then now we're going to tighten these ones all the way down. I'll go across the car afterwards, but for this part I do it this way around. I don't know why, it's just a preference, just what I do. Right, so now we've got everything touch tight on the car, so everything should be roughly in the same place. Shouldn't be anything that's really too much of a drama for us. So I'm going to turn the car back over, holding the top deck as well, like that. Now we're going to apply pressure to the bulkhead screws. You can see as I apply the pressure there, there's still like almost another half a turn that's going into each one compared to where we was before. 2, 3, 4. Do the uppers now. I'm doing these in a crisscross pattern, so like top left, bottom right, then bottom left, top right. I'm doing that at both ends of the car at the same time. Back on the glass. Check we've not overdone it. Right, then do the same on the upper clamps now. Just crank that down for a second. I mean, we're going to take them all off in a minute while we do all the pulleys and stuff. But we'll know now that because we've tightened all 4 of these corners down, that also the bulkheads and the upper bulkheads clamps have also been centered as well. So hopefully now, if we've done this correctly, if we back off these screws again, we should still have no tension on the top deck across the car. And then we know our bulkheads are on square and true, and we can carry on with the rest of the build. I feel that as soon as I undid this screw that the top deck is completely free. No tension at all.